so I'm currently in the middle of nowhere, but that doesn't mean I can't talk some boxing. And I was listening to the Pivot podcast with Terrence Crawford. I'm sure some of you guys have listened to this podcast now, but there's a couple clips going viral, in that interview. But recently, Canelo Alvarez, did a sit-down conversation with the Ring magazine and said he wants to run it back with Terrence Crawford. He wants his rematch, and he feels there's things that he could do differently, and that, he knew before going in to the fight, like while he was in camp and then on fight night, that he made certain mistakes that he will, fix in the rematch, right? And he blamed the reason for his loss was because he was cramping. His legs were cramping. His body just couldn't do what he wanted it to do on fight night, right? And I touched a little bit on this right after they had fought, and I did the video saying now people are going to be making excuses for why Canelo Alvarez lost to Terrence Crawford. And this is even more confirmation. This is something I even said in that video, that we probably haven't heard the end of the excuses for Canelo Alvarez, right? And we haven't. I mean, this just proves it. What he just did is discredit, even though he says, I want to give Crawford the most credit, or all the credit, but my legs were cramping and I couldn't perform the way I wanted to. My body wasn't doing what I asked it to do, or what I wanted it to do. And this just goes to show that Canelo Alvarez is a poor sport loser, and he isn't, somebody who was credited after this fight for, just accepting the loss, being a good sport, and, just accepting it, because clearly he hasn't. He hasn't. But the only thing I'm surprised about is I'm surprised all of his fanboys haven't came out and said, that's the reason he lost to Crawford and blah, blah, blah. And I'm surprised they haven't picked it up and ran with it, because I'm sure, it's kind of hard to do that, because he looks stupid, for one. And two, not too many people are buying it. He came in to that fight in tremendous shape. And I said it in the build-up to the fight. I said, I haven't seen Canelo Alvarez look this good physically in quite some time. But the difference in this fight was Terrence Crawford was just better. Terrence Crawford came in tremendous shape. And tremendous shape is one thing, but he was mentally just locked into this fight. I'm not saying Canelo Alvarez wasn't, but everything for Terrence Crawford was riding on this fight. I mean, his legacy would be defined by this fight. If he were to lose it, people would be saying, oh, he's not that great. See, this is the first time he stepped up into, fighting an elite fighter, and they would have wrote him off. But he didn't accept that, and in the Pivot podcast that I was just talking about and just watching, Crawford was saying he's come to a point now where he just accepts it. He knows that whatever he does, he's not going to get the credit that he actually deserves. And he went pretty deep into this, talking about Canelo and Spence and how these guys were marketed really great, to be these killers. But, when Crawford fights him and he beats him and makes it look easy, there's always detractors saying, well, this guy wasn't 100%. This guy wasn't as great as we thought he was, yada, 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 you name it. Crawford just has never gotten his full just due. And this just goes on to prove it even more, And I think Canelo Alvarez's legacy definitely takes a hit. One, because he got beat up by Floyd Mayweather. He got beat up by Dimitri Bivol, right? He got caught using steroids before in the past. And then he got beat up by a guy coming off shoulder surgery, jumping up 2 to 3 weight classes, if you're going to be completely honest, and he got completely schooled and got his ass whooped, People before that fight were saying, oh, this is Canelo Alvarez's generation, he's the greatest Mexican fighter of all time, this, that, and the other. He's an all-time great. Even BoxRec at one point put him as the #1 super middleweight of all time, ahead of guys like Andre Ward, Roy Jones Jr., Joe Calzaghe. That was the light that Canelo Alvarez was in. People viewed him as a legend, and he may very well still may be. But in my opinion, I think his legacy definitely took a massive hit, because he's a poor sport loser and he's a cheat. let's just keep it a buck. Like I just mentioned, this was a dude who got caught using steroids, right? He's a cheater. And then he's a poor sport too. He made excuses every single time he's lost. He had injuries against Bivol. Bivol was too big. When he fought Mayweather and got completely schooled by Grandpa Floyd Mayweather, oh, he was too young. And then when he gets beat up by Crawford, who happens to be older, smaller, and, you know, Canelo had all the advantages going into this fight. Well, his legs were cramping up, you know. And one thing I didn't even touch on is this dude's a coward as well, because he avoided all the top guys on his way up. Whatever weight class you want to name it, whether it's 154, right? He ducked both of the Charlos when those guys were actually good. He ducked Demetrius Andrade when he was actually good. Moved up to 160. Avoided the same guys. Really, he lost to Triple G. He waited Triple G out the third fight till he became a grandpa. All right, he goes up to 168. He ducks and avoids David Benavidez. And David Benavidez made him look like an even bigger coward than I actually thought he was. And he avoided David Morrell as well, right? He goes up to 175, and I think he just misjudged Dimitri Bivol. I think he thought Dimitri Bivol was one of those Europeans that he's been beaten up on for, you know, years. But Dimitri Bivol was no joke. And I don't think, you know, Canelo really was dealing with anything other than just getting his ass whipped by a better boxer. You know, point blank period. So in my opinion, Canelo Alvarez's legacy took a massive hit. You know, it's going down the drain. I think this dude's best option is to just shut up and retire. You know, maybe go ride his horses and just accept that he's not the best fighter in the sport, never was, and he got beat up by the better man on fight night when he stepped in the ring with Crawford. You know, and if I'm Crawford, definitely not running it back. He kind of touched on that in the Pivot podcast video, saying $100 million wouldn't bring him back, you know. So, and if he did come back, I think he would beat the shit out of Canelo Alvarez again and probably get him out of there. You know, and if it happened to go to scorecards, I would be worried that, you know, Canelo and his team probably paid off, you know, some of the judges, and they would award Canelo a very controversial decision. That's if Crawford doesn't just beat the shit out of him and get him out of there, which would probably be the most likely scenario. But those are my thoughts on this whole matter. Let me know what you guys think, man. Is Canelo Alvarez a cheating, cowardice, punk, poor sport, or am I tripping? Let me know what you guys think. Hey, like, comment, subscribe.
And I try, but my body doesn't respond. I have cramps in my legs, so doesn't respond the way I really want. But, you know, it is what it is. We learn from that and we move forward. And I know what mistakes I made in the fight, in the camp too. But